Boris's Best of British Bulletin, Episode 3, 24th of July 2020. This week in Tory Britain, the government announced a new deal for infrastructure with 600 billion of new money. But predictably, it turned out that only 0.8% of that was actually new money. The £34 billion of new money for the NHS was previously announced in 2018. The government then announced £3 billion of additional funding for a possible second wave of COVID-19. That's less than half the £8 billion NHS said it would need just to stand still, and which still hasn't been paid. Matt Hancock said wearing a mask is mandatory. Downing Street said wearing a mask isn't mandatory. So thank goodness for Gavin Williamson, who cleared it all up by saying they're both right. England's chief nurse confirmed she was dropped from daily briefings because she refused to back Dominic Cummings. A poll found that the UK's trust in their government's ability to manage the pandemic is the lowest, as Jeremy Clarkson would say, in the world. The government cut the budget to end female genital mutilation by 84%. Despite recently coming out as gay, a Tory MP texted his female intern to ask for some no-strings fun. She replied that she was having a bad mental health day. He sympathetically countered that maybe if she thought of fun times with him, she'd feel better. What a charming and caring boss. And so to Brexit. Now that we're back in control of our own country and free from all that pesky foreign interference in our affairs, it was confirmed that the government cancelled the Huawei 5G project because Donald Trump told them to. The Institute for Government found that 61% of businesses had made no preparations at all and that Britain is fatally unprepared for Brexit. The business secretary said, "Seamless trade is vital for our economy, boosting business, supporting jobs and ensuring consumers get the best deal." But he was talking about trade between England and Scotland. He still thinks abandoning seamless trade with the European Union is a great idea. The government used its majority to vote against protecting the NHS from being sold. The government used its majority again to vote against the protection of agriculture and food standards. The government used its majority yet again to vote against Parliament having oversight of any trade deals. And in corruption news, Government Minister Robert Jenrick was in charge of a £25 million urban regeneration scheme last year. In a stunning series of absolute coincidences, 60 of the 61 constituencies helped were Tory seats with small majorities or Tory targets at the last election. Only 2 of those 60 towns had Tory majorities over 10,000, and in another coincidental coincidence, one was Robert Jenrick's own seat. It was also reported that the Irish COVID-19 contact tracing app cost their shockingly frugal and annoyingly competent government £773,000, and that it works perfectly. Meanwhile, in Tory Britain, the contract for managing our world-beating app was given to the wife of a Tory MP, has cost £13 million in 4 months, and doesn't work. Also, the government admitted its world-beating app broke data protection laws. A leaked government report found our world-beating track and trace system is failing. Outsourcing giant Serco traced 59,000 contacts in 6 weeks, which is less than 1 per contact tracer per fortnight. But the government claimed it was a success because it managed to find an outbreak in its own track and trace call centre. Except it didn't, because NHS Scotland found it. In Scotland, the NHS and local authorities have been quietly and competently conducting contact tracing throughout the pandemic, without outsourcing to any political donors at all. The Intelligence and Security Committee, ISC, finally convened and said that the reasons given by the government for delaying the Russian report were simply not true. The ISC released the report. The government then announced a pay rise for 900,000 thoroughly deserving workers. Were you distracted? No. Neither was I. The report confirmed that Russian interference in the 2014 Scottish independence referendum happened. Of course, we didn't really need an intelligence committee to find this out, because former Prime Minister David Cameron actually asked Vladimir Putin to intervene. And not through some dodgy diplomatic back channel. Oh no. He asked him by writing an article for a fucking newspaper. There are those who would like to rerun the Scottish independence referendum, just to make sure the result is free from pesky foreign interference. But Boris Johnson isn't keen for some reason. The report further reveals that no one in government knew if Russia interfered in or sought to influence the Brexit referendum, because they did not want to know. The ISC demanded an inquiry into Russian interference, and so predictably the government immediately said, "No." Some feel we should rerun the Brexit referendum, just to ensure our democracy hasn't been compromised. But all too predictably, Boris Johnson isn't keen on that either. Personally, after watching the Tories flail around aimlessly for the last 8 months, I don't really care if Vladimir Putin is secretly pulling the strings. At least it would mean that one person involved in running the UK is actually competent. In entirely coincidental news, this week it was reported that the largest political donor in British history is a Russian socialite who has so far paid £1.7 million to the Conservative Party. She paid £160,000 for a game of tennis with Boris Johnson. She paid £30,000 for dinner with Gavin Williamson. I'll bet they weren't eating chlorinated chicken, huh? The company she runs has assets of £23,000 and liabilities of £8.4 million. So it's a bit of a mystery where all this donated money is coming from. And finally, it was reported that the UK doesn't even have enough wooden pallets to transport goods after we leave the European Union. Because, surprisingly, we've been relying on Europe to provide them until now. And we have neither the wood nor the treatment facilities required to build our own. Now, people, this may sound like a bizarre episode of Fawlty Towers, but it is in fact just another painfully usual week in Tory Britain, which leaves us with but one question. Are you yes yet? Folks, thanks for watching. Comment on the Facebook page, play nicely. Unionists are welcome on my page. Please make them feel it. Davey PhD.